Uģis Žaļims of Latvia on the blocks with Intars Dambis, Martin Haven and John Morgan on the microphones. Wherever you are across the globe, thank you for joining us. Former, current sliders and fans alike.
Okay, a couple Latvians who won medals last year. Sezonas got a look down. No, he didn't win a medal last year. 2 years ago, Sanktmorica, but he finished 12th in World Cup points, missing 2 races. His best finish was his 7th at Pyeongchang in Korea.
Yeah, we didn't see him until the European swing. He didn't come to Vistlera and Leikplesida last year. So again, you know, down on experience here compared to some of the fields. 2400s back. Don't forget that Johannes Lochner, who is the current leader, was tied to the 100th of a second with Uģis Žaļims after the first heat.
There's no way he's going to gather back that quarter of a second on this track.
But he's got a fractionally better speed than Johannes Lochner. Down at the bottom, Alexei Stulnev has the best speed in the Russian sled, but at the moment...
But his start was so deficient.
Yeah, Žaļims is not going to close.
Question is, how many is he going to fall? He's
He'll get closer.
Rinaldi might pick off somebody else.
Rinaldi does pick off somebody else. Rinaldi is sweeping up the order now.
Look at the Germans.
And Christian Rasp going, what?
This is fine with us. Yeah. You know, this is what we're going to do.
Pick them up. It's all points. It all helps. And, you know, 1 or 2 extra points here may make a difference in where you start in the Olympic Games. This is the season where points finishes absolutely can pay off. Look through the chicane. You want to try and avoid the tap on the right because that always sends you into the left-hand wall, and he just about avoided both of them. Oskars Melbārdis and Daumann Strīskins didn't do much racing last year. They did a lot of recovery after surgery, particularly for Melbārdis with a back issue.
Only 1 single digit last year, the silver medal.
Yeah. Silver in the racing Eagles.
And then he was at the Olympic test in Pyeongchang with a 12th place finish. And there's not 2 bigger people in a bobsled in the world than these 2. These are 2 huge 240-pound plus men. And they can run. They own the start record on the track.
5 flat. Can they beat it? No, they can't. 5.08.
Thorsten Marcus and just tied it. So, but these guys are just getting into form again. The back surgery for Melbārdis. Daumann Strīskins is very young. Not anymore either.
Well, neither of them are in their first flush of youth, but they are so strong. You know, it's that Kevin Kuska thing, isn't it? If you can stay healthy, you can have a long career in this.
It's tough to stay healthy when you're old. You start to compete in October and November for the prize in February. You have to really pace yourself.
Yep. 2800s back. They are dropping like a stone right now. They are 4th place on the splits. So they are just ahead of Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco, and that's where they stay.
So they dropped 3 places. The Germans hang in there. Friedrich.
Yeah, Francesco Friedrich. We saw Torsten Marcus bouncing up and down like a spring chicken.
Now the guy in the front seat, decathlon. Thorsten Marcus, decathlon. Thorsten Marcus, the German, is the highest rated decathlon, highest point scorer, over 7,800 points in the field.
That was not Melbārdis' plan. You saw him just slap the top of the sled in frustration. Come back and do it again tomorrow. Learn again.
This is up top. Exit of 3. Exit of into the white face curve coming up here in the 4, and he's got a back end skid that's loss of time for sure. That's why he was 3/10 behind there at the halfway point.
Oskars Ķibermanis, the last and the best placed of our Latvian trio. After the first heat, he was in 7th place with Matis Mignis, his brakeman. Ķibermanis with the 4th fastest start, 5:04 in the first heat for this pair. And you saw there their advantage over Chris Spring from the first heat, 0.2 of a second. I beg your pardon, 1200ths of a second.
04 should be about that. 01. So they decided to pedal to the metal here. And let's see what this young athlete who's moving up the ladder. He's had 3 World Cup finishes on the podium last year, including a second in Pyeongchang.
Oh, here we go. 1200s ahead of spring, out to 1500s. That faster start is helping.
And this is a 23-year-old former decathlete that walked off the streets of Riga and put him right in the bobsled front seat. Didn't waste any time for him as a brakeman. And we've watched him mature the last couple of years. Last year was a breakout year.
Oh, he's in trouble. Only 700ths of a second in front and a big skid there. He might drop behind Chris Spring yet. Down to 400ths.
Right to the 100.
The Latvian sleds are always very quick. Can he stay in front? Ducks his head. No! Springer holds on. The first race of the season. I think Chris Spring and Alex Kopacz are having fun.
That skid up there in the exit of chicane didn't help.
It was all going away, but he had just enough speed until that little error.
That skid, the chicane, everything else is there. 501 start, Oscar. Not bad.
Yeah.
This is up top. This wasn't.
Just got bumped away from the wall.
That's a little skid in the back there, but the one down below, this is the one. Watch how this sled comes down to us, and watch at the exit. The last pictures we're going to see here. Watch the sled. There's a little bit of a skid here. That's where he lost it, right there.
Yeah. Oskars Ķibermanis slips. Chris Spring is still our race leader with 6 to go. Next up is Uģis Žaļims of Latvia with Davis Springis behind him. 17th after the first heat. And they have nearly a tenth of a second in hand over Maxim Anjanov. In fact, they have 1100s in hand over Anjanov.
21 start. Well, you expect out of them. They had 26 in the first run. Maybe the start track up there is a little bit quicker than it was. The first run seemed sticky. Everybody was considerably slower than the night before or yesterday.
17th after the first heat, John. He was 17th in yesterday's race, so that seems to be about where the bar's set for Uģis Žaļims here in Leikplesida.
We got on the podium last year. Was consistently in the top 10.
Got up to 2 tenths away. Now it's slipping back. Yeah, never finished lower than 10th. And he had 4 ninth places and then a 5th. Until the World Championships when he ended up in 14th place. But he's 2 tenths up again on Maxim Anjanov.
Lost a little bit back. Andrianov had a decent bottom part of the track. 15, 56, 55. So he's 1800 slower.
Yeah. Getting on for 2 tenths slower than he was on the first run. That was at what time we start? 1 o'clock for the first heat. Now getting on to 2:45 in the afternoon. Any temperature rise that there's been is going to soon be reversed, very soon be reversed.
Okay, look what's these pictures. The back end, 6-7, a little late. And that corner's been a little tame today. Yesterday, Bruce Tasker was very entertaining in that curve.
Yeah, a couple of guys threw it in there, didn't they? Tasker just got away with it. Not everybody did. The Austrians crashed after that in the women's race. Took a long ride down on their heads. Well, Uģis Žaļims of Latvia is the race leader for how long? Because here is the #1 Latvian driver. Whatever last year's results say, he is still the #1 Latvian driver, particularly if he's fully fit by the end of the year. Oskars Melbārdis. Dalmas Dreskins was on the back of the sled yesterday, switching him out to give him a rest, and Ravis Zurps is on the back today.
So he owns the start record of 5 flat. Well, he's did it in November 2012, and 501s we saw posted last night, 100th off, but this isn't the same guy from 2012. As you said, that back surgery has really put him less than 100%.
Yeah, all he got out of that race in 2012 was the start record. Didn't walk away with a medal. Holcomb won it from Cunningham, and Corey, no, that was the year after. Cunningham won it from, Holcomb won it from Corey Butler and Francesco Friedrich that year. Melbārdis with his nose in front, though, pulling away.
1700 should be enough. But, of course, this looming down here is this 18-19 right there. Okay, now the uphill section. He's perfect, and he should be a quarter-second lead. 31.
That was a much better looking run.
56-28. He just went faster. He's the first guy that went faster the second run. Right?
Little laugh from Sandis Prusis in the blue hat here. He is the first man to even get close to his first run speed. Now, track temperature is remaining pretty consistent. Again, as the air temperature drops, then it's maybe frosting a little.
Runner tips, friction, take a look. I mean, those things are pointed pretty straight. Good aerodynamic profile from the brakeman.
Yeah, Oskars looks pretty relaxed with that. Not the greatest result. He'd be more relaxed if he was in the top three, but there's time. That will come.
You can see how everybody's bundled up down there.
Yeah. And in fact, the race runners are then immediately removed after it's been tested, and they put on either little neoprene sort of runners or just unpolished steels to transport the sleds around away from the racetrack. Because the race runners, like racing tyres, are really precision built. 9 sleds to go in Leikplesida. Oskars Ķibermanis is the latest at the top of the track. Mattis Miknis behind him. Nico Walter of Germany, our race leader.
13 in the first run, 5th best start, so they should maybe get down to 11 or a 10. 13 again. So that's the 2,700ths they have in the bank on this athlete who had a pretty good breakout year last year. He won medals twice in Altenberga and Winterberg, but then the big prize was a 2nd place finish at the pre-Olympic test in Pyeongchang, Korea. And this young decathlete from the streets of Riga, they pulled him right off the streets, put him right in the front seat of the bobsled in 2014-15 season. We saw him on tour. There's a lot of frustrating moments when he'd have the best start times and not have the good down times, but now you can see his maturity on the track.
He finished 8th in the World Cup rankings last year in 2-man. The Latvians didn't even come to North America, so they got 0 points at all from the opening 2 races. He might have been 3rd or 4th, perhaps.
Well, this time is going away.
Yeah, it is, but he's still in the lead narrowly. Oh, and just holds on over Nico Walter.
So bye-bye, Nico. You had a good weekend here, Nico.
Yeah. With 8 sleds to go, he's in 2nd, so he'll have a 1st and a 10th place result, no worse.
3/10 slower. There's Damas Striskins, which was the legendary brakeman from Latvia for about 4 Olympics.
Still is. Was pushing yesterday. He's just got a day off today, so he's humping sleds around in the ice.
This is 11-12, and that was not bad. You're going to hit that wall.
Yeah.
Just the question is how hard. Hard, loss of time. Oskars.
Well, hasn't raced here for a couple of seasons, so Cody Bascu victorious ahead of Justin Cripps, Justin Olsen, and Nick Cunningham. Chris Spring of Canada making it an all-North American top 5. Johannes Lochner raced up the order to 6 ahead of Rico Peter, Oskars Ķibermanis, Francesco Friedrich, and yesterday's winner Nico Walter tied in 9th spot. So all Germans in, all 3 German sleds in the top 10 as well. And then Oskars Melbārdis with Nick Polonyato. Yun Jong-won 13th, there or thereabouts. Rudy Rinaldi, his best result on this track, 14th, with that really sore foot. And we had 1 crash, Bradley Hall and Toby Alubi. And unfortunately, they are out. They are hopefully, though, all okay. Latvia's Oskars Ķibermanis in 15th place off a 19th fastest start. Now, it was really gusty in the first heat of the 4-man. I'd be surprised if the Latvians only produce a 19th fastest start again. unless somebody's tying their shoelaces together.
Yeah, I believe these people really got affected by a wind gust up there. These are very full, powerful athletes, usually the top 5 or 6 starting team. In, down, look at the number 2 man, wait for everybody else to get tucked in. 493 again, not a very good start again.
200s quicker, so it wasn't wind affected.
Remember in the first heat, they had a push bar out around the first curve.
There's results for Ķibermanis.
Oh, he's way back.
He had a silver in bronze in Pyeongchang in the 4-man and a silver in the 2-man at the end of last season.
Yeah, this is this young 24-year-old that they took off the streets of Riga in 2014 as a decathlete, put him right in the front seat. And we've seen great maturity in the last year from this young athlete, but not so far in the start of these first 2 World Cups.
He was tied with 1 in the first heat, goes 2,700 slower.
Falls 3 places.
Yep.
Wow.
Well,
something wrong up there because they should have a better start than that, number 1. And number 2, they shouldn't have been 2 tenths behind up before curve 5.
Yeah.
Saw him pound the signage. Look at the start here. Cohesion. Feet coming down together.
Well, there was no slips, no major errors. They just weren't where you'd expect them.
This wasn't great, but he was already almost a quarter second down before Albert Sally.
There's Oskars Ķibermanis looking a little bit perplexed here. Now we're into the zone where a good run, adjusting Krip's run, could throw you into the medals.
So this World Championship team from 2015, Latvia's first ever World Championship in Innsbruck, 476.
200s off the start, 400s off the start record. It's the second quickest we've seen today.
Melbārdis, after that 2015 season, had back surgery. Wasn't really 100% last year, half the season.
Still coming back, he says. He and Damas Dreskins.
Olympic silver medalist in the 4-man competition in Sochi, Latvia's first ever Olympic medal in bobsledding.
Gaps coming down a little, 1800s, 1400s, 800s.
Watch out if any skid here in this graveyard.
Krips is still going to lead at the bottom, I think. He is going to lead. Justin Krips will stay in the leader's box.
Wow.
That's a big improvement over the 48.51 first heat, but Krips and the team are laughing as they ride their luck up the order. John, it was so insanely tight. 2,600 a second covered the first 16 sleds after the first heat.
I'm still stunned about Krips' name.
Yeah.
There's no room for error on the track. He made errors and was the fastest. Would have been the fastest time in the first run with that run.
If there were no clocks, we'd have said Krips was about last. And as ever, travelling Latvian fans. Well, look at that insanity. 9 sleds covered by 1,500ths of a second, and the top 5, literally by the blink of an eye, 700ths of a second. And one of last year's winners, Alexander Kasyanov, in 10th, 2,600ths back, ahead of the rampant Yun Jung-won, who climbed the order in the second heat, as others just struggled in that midfield group. A tough first race, but Nico Walter of Germany comes out at the top of the pile. Oskars Ķibermanis of Latvia next up, third of our 20 sleds in this second day of racing in a 4-man competition. 200ths of a second ahead of Simone Patazzo, only 500ths ahead in the first heat of the current race leader, Justin Olsen. So this is another potential scalp for Olsen to pick off, because these guys barely outstarted the Italians. 496, 22nd at the start.
This is one of the best starting teams.
That almost sounds, it's almost like the driver was sitting in. Now, one of the Latvian drivers did sit in training for a couple of runs. I think it might have been Ķibermanis.
Might have been. Look how early he's in.
Yeah.
Now, this team right here got third in the pre-Olympic test in Pyeongchang last March. And here he is back in 18th place. Nope, there's definitely some injuries in this team.
Pretty sure I saw him sitting in one of the training runs right at the start.
Oh, he jogged about 7 steps.
Yeah.
27 hundredths. That should go back to 30 or so, and they might neutralize it from there.
Nice.
No, he's coming back.
Nice clean run
Olsen
so
wasn't
far.
clean down here. 8, he might catch him. Wow. I thought Olsen would be living in that leader's box a long time. But Ķibermanis caught him.
He's in the green. Can he hold on uphill to the line? He does.
48.01. So he bested Olsen for 2 weeks by 11 hundredths. So look at the speed difference. A mile and a half better than Olsen at the speed part of the track. Look at him get out 10 very gingerly.
Not what you want coming into an Olympic season.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, he's in way early. He takes 4 or 5 more steps. This is a guy who starts high 70s again, 3rd place at the Olympic test last year. It wasn't because he had a bad start.
Yeah, don't get that jogging off. Well, he's still smiling there, Oskars Ķibermanis. Chrome on the side of the sled marks out the Latvians. This is Oskars Melbārdis, tied for 6th after the first heat. And 4 hundredths of a second, this tie ahead of Lamindine of Great Britain.
And now it gets close. The next 3 sleds separated by 300. This guy had the 2nd best time of the final run last night. And the 2014 world champion with 3 huge men into the little bathtub and down. 478. Well, I saw some heads popping up there. Looks like they were settled in that sled. And Melbārdis, after the 2015 World Championships, of course, he won the 2014 silver medal in Sochi, the Latvians' first ever Olympic medal in bobsled, but he had back surgery summer 2015. He was not 100% last year. I bet you he's still not 100% yet.
No, and Damon Struskins, his #1 brakeman, had the same issues, back surgery.
But this looks like he's on point, but it's down to 7. Remember the FES Berlin sled? But Nico Walter was quick down here. This could be another one.
Well, this is a Eurotech sled. Will it hold the lead? No! By 100th! Okay, come on. There's Toby Alubi, the tall man with his back to you.
British program, those athletes are so deserving of these results. Melbārdis, it's okay. He's buying his time. They're thinking about February. He's got an older, experienced crew there.
Yeah. Just got to get fit and fast.
Yeah. I put a bet down. I bet you he's right there in Korea. Look at that skid. That's up there. And the Wasatch curve, that sled, the bottom sled looked airborne. Then he climbed so high. Look at the way that the reflection on the
getting
curve.
in sideways. The sled's trying to steer right. The track's going left. Yeah. And it's Lochner the winner by 5 hundredths from Cody Baskey, by 12 hundredths from Brad Hall. Francesco Frigid in 4th ahead of Chris Spring and Lamindine. Last night's race winner, Justin Cripps, in 8th position. Oh, boy. What a day here. What a weekend here in Park City. Fantastic action in all 5 categories. 3rd BMW IBSF 2-man bobsleigh race of the season. We're in Whistler, the 2010 Winter Olympic venue. 10 sleds down, Nico Walter of Germany the leader, and 10 sleds still to go. Martin Haven, John Morgan watching the action this Friday evening in British Columbia. And Oskars Ķibermanis, one of 3 Latvian sleds in the field. Only one has won a medal here in 2-man. We've already seen Uģis Žaļims down at the tail of the field.
Only a 16th best start from this, one of the better starters in the field. You know, Ķibermanis, decathlete, young. This will be his first Olympic Games at a 491 again. Be surprised at that. He might not be 100%. And he didn't drive very well on the way down either, unlike his teammate Melbārdis, who's in 2nd place. We'll see him coming up at 8 sleds.
Ķibermanis has 2 hundredths of a second in hand over Nico Walter of Germany from the first heat. He's already 8 hundredths behind, so he's lost a 10th in total. Ooh, and that was late.
Speed part of the track. The Gold Rush section. Now in the Thunderbird at 90+ miles an hour with your rear end about 8 inches off the ice. He ducks his head for aerodynamics going uphill, 52.59, and the Germans live for another sled.
Yeah. Quarter of a second slower on that run alone than Nico Walter. Nico Walter might end up in the top half dozen at this rate. We saw Francesco Friedrich, his teammate, climb from 19th after the first heat. He's still in 5th with only 9 sleds to go, so he will pick up at least 4 spots.
Oh, look, watch the body slap a little late. See the way the head slapped left to right? You saw the brakeman's shoulders. You shouldn't see that. Now he's got a skid. Then he corrects pretty well into 9. Aerodynamics, pretty good there. Watch the transition here. This is up 11 to 12 and 90 miles an hour. Quite a thrill seeker's spot right there.
Only one Latvian driver has earned himself a medal on this track in 2-man, either as a driver or a brakeman. Oskars Melbārdis hasn't had a medal yet in Vistlera. Gives his sled a little pat. Second after the first of our 2 heats.
Very deficient start time for these two, 4:88 in the first run. They could go 4:80, it wouldn't surprise me.
Gets it safely through turn 1, 4:85.
This is the best starting team in the world a couple years ago. A couple back surgeries, you know, but he drove as good as anybody in the bottom part of the track in the first heat, and he's going to have to do it again to medal.
Only 200s quicker than Cripps in the first run.
Cripps beat him badly at the start.
Yeah, and then hit the wall. So a little late flop, not bad
I don't see any way of him overcoming 1700s. Now the question is, can he stay ahead of the Russian Kazanov?
Not at the moment.
Not going to do it.
He's in. Oh no, now he's ahead of Kazanov on the splits. He could keep himself in the medals.
Harry did this in the first run, but he's not going to catch Cripps.
Getting close. How close is he? Not enough. A skid at the line. His second, but oh wow.
Wow, did he come back?
Well, Cripps 500s, 900s faster on that trip.
Boy, if he had his normal start time, which would be 4:76, 4:77, he'd be in the leader's box by a lot. That was some speed on the bottom part of the track from Melbārdis and Drieskins.
Yes, it was. That is a quick run.
Tapped out of the finish curve in the uphill section, which was, that's worth some time. Little rough transition there. And look how this is in the curve 7, the leader's loop, and watch the heads. Really quiet.
Yeah, and even the skiddy run up to the finish line probably cost him the better part of a 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
Tim Randall leaping up and down like a spring chicken there as he celebrates teammate Chris Spring winning. Justin Cripps second, just 200s between Canada's top 2 bobsled pilots. Oskars Melbārdis in the medals for the first time in his 2-man career here, ahead of Alexander Kazanov, denying the Russian yet another medal on this track. This is like a second home for the Russians. They do so well in 2-man and 4-man here. Watch out for him in tomorrow evening's race. Whistler, the 2010 Winter Olympic venue, is the host for the 3rd race of the BMW IBSF 4-man bobsleigh World Cup. Hello everybody, welcome to the final heat of the North American swing of this Olympic season. The road to Pyeongchang continues to be rocky for some, and is it going to be gold-plated for others? Martin Haven alongside me, John Morgan. And John, after 3 weeks of phenomenal racing, what a race we got on our hands here.
And Nico Walter, who's won one of the 2 World Cup 4-man races so far in North America, he comes down in a favorable run. He started 7th, posted the 9th best start time, and he's in a bronze medal position. Next up, Alexander Kazanov. He won the event here last year. This Russian really likes this track, and he's got himself in a silver medal position and he's just a couple hundredths of a second out of the gold medal. And Lyman Dean of Great Britain, wow. Ben Simons, Toby Olaboo, Andrew Matthews, top 5 last week in Pārksitija, and he was the 6th guy out of the shed today. Surprised everybody. He broke the Olympic track record set by Stephen Holcomb in 2010. No one else matched it, and for the 2nd week in a row, the British are in the lead at the end of the first run.
I've been doing this sport every year of this century, and I have never seen a British team own a track record. Lyman Dean does that here now and beat it by 0.2 of a second, but a 3-time medalist in the last 3 years, Alexander Kazyanov, is hot on his heels. Don't count out Nico Volter, he's on a roll. Loic Kosterga, France in 4th. Great story there. Cody Basque, 5th. One of the big stories is who's at the bottom. Baird Hefty fails to make the cut. May not see him again on the World Cup trail. And at the bottom of the table is Oskars Melbārdis and Francesco Friedrich. Friedrich, don't forget, not just the 2-man world champion, the reigning 4-man world champion with Johannes Lochner. So all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff going on in this Olympic season. Air temperature +2 and rainy, ice at 0, control steel. Now that's the runner they measure the temperature of all the others against. It hangs up in the air in the start shed in the shade, and nobody can be more than plus or minus 2 degrees from that to stop you heating runners to reduce friction. There's the man who's got a gold medal from last year and 2 silver medals in the 2 previous races. Alexander Kazyanov, the driver. Oskars Melbārdis, he'll go off first, because he was only 20th in the first heat. And John, it was a topsy-turvy run. Look at those names. They should be on the top of the first heat.
2 world champions in 2015, Oskars Melbārdis, 2016, Francesco Friedrich. They're 20th and 19th, respectively.
Benny Meyer, Simone Bertazzo, Rico Peter, who was silver medalist here last year in the 4-man. He was only in 13th place. And Lyman Dean, who took 6th last week in 4-man. Teammate Brad Hall took 3rd. Lyman Dean is leading the race. Okay, 20 sleds to go to round out our North American campaign. And for some, it has been a real boost to the season. For others, they're going to have to forget this, go home to Europe and reset. And Oskars Melbārdis is definitely in the latter camp. He has not had a glowing time here in 4-man, 16th and 13th.
Yeah, but yesterday he came out of nowhere with a bad start time, unlike him, and finished with a bronze medal in the 2-man.
Well, that was the first race. He's not been out of the teens in anything so far in 5 races, apart from last night.
The Olympic silver medalist from Sochi, the world champion in 2015. You know, I just think their strategy is, don't want to peak in November, we want to peak in February, because he had the 5th best start time.
Oskars Melbārdis and Damas Drieskins have won a race here. They won the pre-Olympic race, pushing Yanis Minins. 4:75 getaway, good start for them.
Training and competition here at Bobsleigh.
And the 5th fastest start in the first heat, that's a fraction quicker.
Well, it's all about here in Whistler, the lines up top. Watch the heads. They slap as they exit these curves. That tells you the transition. That's smooth, very quiet. And this is very good aerodynamic profile on this super speedway that this Whistler track is. Now the 50-50 curve. It's pretty tame.
Well, it's a good way to get down in one piece, is not to veer wildly from wall to wall. It's a much neater looking run than his first, 51.32. Oh, that's a whole 300ths of a second quicker. Well, gosh. Well, the first one, it looked like Melbārdis' brakemen were not keen on another trip down the mountain. It was so on the edge. That was controlled, restrained and safe, and the result was pretty much the same.
Well, choreography on ice, 4 huge men sprinting across the ice, getting in. Watch the number 2 guy wait. See, he's waiting. Then all of a sudden they get in with cohesion with their hands and their arms. And then you drop out of a 6-story building between curves 1 and 2.
Oskars Ķibermanis of Latvia, 12th after the first heat. We've just seen Rico Peter, last year's silver medalist, creep ahead of Francesco Friedrich to take the lead. But with a dozen sleds to come, there's going to have to be 10 withdrawals for Rico Peter to get a medal here. Ķibermanis, like teammate Oskars Melbārdis, just talking nicely to the sled before we go down. Make peace with the sled and with Holke's 50-50, and who knows.
Didn't have very good starts at all in the first run, but he had great speed in the bottom part of the track.
Yeah, 21st start after 22.
This is so unlike that.
486 is better. That's more in the ballpark.
This is a guy who third in Pyeongchang last year. Test in the 4-man, second in the 2-man. He won a World Cup in Sanktmorica format. So, I mean, the start is where he really is proficient. But something strange happened here. But at 500, he could do that on the bottom. He's great speed in the first run on the bottom part of the track. Let's see, down to 3. Here he comes. This is what he does. Smooth, speed. Oh, this is like 95 miles an hour plus 700s. I don't know, he's running out of track.
Oh, a 10th behind.
So Rico Peter and team picks off one. Sanders Bruce's.
Boy.
Ķibermanis, that start. He's usually has a better start. He's got a 400 slower start than Rico Peter. Usually he's got about a 500 better start. So he's a 10th off. Bet you we see that improve when he gets to Europe. Of course, the Latvians are in that program. Let's peak in February, not now.
Well, Sunbin Jung career doesn't seem to be paying much attention to that, or Jacqueline Lurling. The skeleton athletes are winning, winning, winning. Let's see.
11, 12, right where he wants to be. And this is the crossover between the 50-50 curve, and that's, whoa, he did some Robin Hood there, which is really the maximum steering.
What a race. And can we just go through the top 6? Alexander Kazhinov, Lamindine of Great Britain, Nico Walter, Justin Cripps of Canada, Johannes Lochner, the world champion, and Loïc Kosterg of France. And Brad Hall in 9th ahead of Oskars Ķibermanis, who drove himself from nowhere into the top 10. The Latvians had an awful first heat. Francesco Friedrich, the other world champion, in 12th. Last night's 2-man winner, Chris Spring, in 13th. Oh boy, what a race. I think I need a breath. As we get to outside the top 10, Oskars Melbārdis, 11th place for Melbārdis. Silver medalist here 2 years ago, silver medalist in the Worlds 3 years ago. Injured last year. This was only the second race of the season in Vinterberga last year, and he was a long way from being healthy.
5:22. That's the third best start. Of course, Lochner had the best start, but had also sorts of issues in and around curve 1. Or curve 0, the Hassel curve.
It's the first trip down the track that Melbārdis has had in 2 years. He didn't compete in Vinterberga last season because of that injury. He aggravated it in the season opener in Altenberga, or the European season opener in Altenberga.
Altenberga aggravates a lot of things.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, even if you're perfectly healthy, it aggravates things. And he was not perfectly healthy, still isn't.
Got a huge lead here, though, quarter
Yes,
of a second. Speed almost at the 100-kilometer mark.
This is a big run from Melbārdis. He was 100th ahead of Stulnev from the first heat. He's added 2400s to that.
Crushing. He doesn't have the speed in the bottom.
No, so it'll come down to 2/10.
Yeah, lost 5/600ths in the bottom. Look at Sanders Bruce's, who used to have some great results. European champion of this track way back in the 2000, 2001 era.
That's a great shot by Melbārdis. If he'd been a 10th quicker in the first heat, he would have been 6th and not 11th. And there's a big points difference there, you know. Half a dozen places further up could be a big,
40,
big
50
difference.
Points.
Yeah.
Points all relative to where you start in the Olympic Games. So these are two huge men, and getting into this little bathtub cylinder. Watch the brakeman's arms. Do they come up together in cohesion? And now does he fit himself into an aerodynamic pose? You think that's easy? And then down on the 82-mile-an-hour speed part of the track, transition into the finish curve, very clean.
Ali, we've had one Latvian down, Oskars Melbārdis. We've now got 2 to go. Uģis Žaļims was in 9th after the first heat. He was 2 whole hundredths of a second ahead of our current leader, Nico Walter. You think this is tight? It's like this for the next half dozen sleds.
Good starter, 5:22 in the first run. It's not snowing, so he should be okay with the start. Should match his start, maybe be 100 down. We've seen most teams go 300-400 slower, but that was when it was snowing hard, and there he goes 5:21. So there's an example of the snow, what it affects. It's 300-400s worth at the start, 300s at the start is 900-1000s at the bottom. But this is an outdoor winter sport, and sometimes luck of the draw.
North America, he was 15th, 17th, and 19th in the 3 races. Here, he's 9th after the first heat. And that's what more experience of European tracks is bringing him. 500s, the gap's coming
Good
down.
Speed. He was 5th in this race last year, so he likes the track. There's some great exit there out of Kreisel. And he taps before 9. It's 300s. 99.4 is not the same speed as the German on the bottom. The German was flying on the bottom.
It's very close, but he's in the red.
+2, 131 speed. He's got 131.4. It's not going to be enough.
And at the line, Nico Walter holds on.
2 spots. He drops behind his teammate Melbārdis too.
That's because it's so tight.
The coach, Sanders Prusis, looks.
Well, we saw with Mathias Luthi, 800s dropped him 3 spots. 800s has cost Uģis Žaļims at least 2.
Yeah, 3 sleds here by 800s.
Yeah, hasn't lost him any of the support from the Latvian fans.
Not as good as he did last year in the event when he finished 5th, but top 10. This is 9 to 10. That looked pretty clean. Does he get up too high here? No, those are good lines. On the bottom.
Well, he's the 3rd of the Latvian sleds. May not have had quite the runner choices available that the others did. May have gone his own way on what he felt he needed in these conditions. You know, the differences are so tiny. 3rd of our Latvians is Oskars Ķibermanis. In the last 3 years, we've had a Latvian on the podium. The 2 previous years, it was Oskars Melbārdis, but Ķibermanis took the bronze last season behind silver medalist Johannes Lochner and winner Francesco Friedrich. Now, we've already dealt with Lochner. He's way out of the equation. He's 8th at the moment. And Oskars Ķibermanis was 8th in the first heat.
He's got a 500s lead, 22 start in the first run. And with no snow, maybe a 20, 21. He's running about 80%. This guy should be in the low teens. There's the 16.
Wow.
He put the old pedal to the metal there. That's a big advantage, 63 kilometer speed. It's 39 miles an hour.
Equals the fastest start we've seen in the competition, which was the leader after the first heat. 2 tenths up now on Nico Walter.
I don't think he's worried about Nico Walter. He's worried about the guys coming up next. And again, he's 80%. This is the guy who finished 2nd at the Pyeongchang Olympic test last March. He also medaled in 4-man. Took him off the streets of Riga 4 years ago. He's a decathlete, put him right in the front seat, and the Latvian effort with him might be paying off.
Does make it sound like he was begging. Took him off the streets of Riga.
Well, this is 1000s. He's lost a lot of back. We should be enough. Single digits.
He will have the lead over Nico Walter. And the same time that Nico Walter set, the same time that Oskars Melbārdis set. And the difference between them is at the first heat. 500s ahead of Walter, 600s ahead of Melbārdis.
They won by 1800s at the start.
Yeah.
And only 5 at the bottom. So Nico Walter, the better driver, but Walter just uses the 2-man as a warm-up for the 4-man.
Well, and to humiliate the 2-man world champion and the 4-man world champion as well. Nico Walter is enjoying 2-man a lot more this year than he has.
Entrance to Kreisel. Slight tap. Then it pushes him high. Consistent line there, though. And here's into the finish. Not bad. It's that 82-mile-an-hour speeds then with that uphill section of the finish curve.
Beats a 4-time 2-man world champion into 2nd place. Spring and Friedrich tie for the silver, but it's Braca who claims gold. And again, top 5 sleds has 3 Canadians in it. That's just remarkable. So fantastic edge of the seat finale to the 4th race. 4 races, 4 different winners in the 2-man bobsleigh
Friedrich
World
gets
Cup.
on the podium the first time.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
We need a break.
First medal for Friedrich. We do need a break. We're not going to get one, though. We've got 4-man to come tomorrow. 12 sleds to go. We get to the first of our Latvians. This is Oskars Melbārdis. Damas Dreskins in the sled as well. Didn't do the two-man race. Half a second off the lead, and they had 1900ths of a second over Brad Hall from the first heat. This may well be where the British run up the ladder comes to a shuddering halt.
Now look at everybody's coming. All the drivers are coming up front, not running off the back block, because it's probably more of a conservative.
Well, Melbārdis is always a front handle starter. He's just such a beast. He doesn't need the run to get the power into it.
63 what? 63.2. That's not that great a velocity. The British had 0.3 of a kilometer better, even though that. Well, there was probably, you know, it was a 300 slower start too, though.
Gaps coming down from 1700s to 1300s.
13 to 13. Oh, big skid there, though.
You saw it kick up the snow.
This is Melbārdis, the former world champion and the silver medalist from the Sochi Olympics.
1200s. Bronze medalist in the World Championships here 3 years ago.
No, it's 17. Should have enough here in the bank. 134. Let's see it.
And he'll be 1700s, 2/10 ahead of the line.
7 miles an hour. 55.15, which is, that's 0.3 slower than his first run.
Well, that run was 100th quicker than Brad Hall managed on the second heat. So his first heat advantage definitely served him well there. Melbārdis 10th out of the start shed, Brad Hall 16th. Melbārdis had the better ice conditions in heat 1 and the better drive.
Watch this skid. It's hard to get these four-mans into skids, but when they do, and this is curve 9, really this 78 mile an hour speeds there, and then you get into the 82, 83, 84 down on the bottom.
Okay, next up, Oskars Ķibermanis of Latvia. 7th after the first heat, off the 12th fastest start. And like his teammate Oskars Melbārdis, starts on the front handle.
5:12, first run. Good efficiency, 5:11. So 63.3, 63.4, 63.3.
But as he sits down, he's in the red behind Benny Meyer, outstarted by the Austrians, and now he's got to outdrive him. He only had 400s in hand.
But that's a pretty good sign, only to be 300s down at that point. So I think he might have stopped the bleeding there. And the back end of the sled as we enter Kreisel, the picture coming up right here, that's pretty good. Only 4 now, but boy, Meyer was flying on the bottom part of the track.
Yep. Ķibermanis is the match, though. He's only a few hundreds behind, as you say, 3 or 400s. Now, does the gap remain
speed,
constant?
Though, doesn't have the same speed as Meyer. 400s.
Still 400s. He needs to find a shortcut here or roll it off the corner for pace. And he's tied again. Well, Benny Meyer doesn't lose the lead. And Oskars Ķibermanis doesn't take it, but he joins them.
He's only 80%.
Yeah. So we now have a tie for first and a tie for third.
Look at the Latvian fans who are every place. And Ķibermanis is 80%. He usually has a top 2 or 3 start time. This is the decathlete out of Riga 4 years ago, never was in a bobsled. Now they've accelerated him to a spot, and look at these lines. The snow lines, that's up top, curve 5, 6, but that set him up good. This is down at 9 through the drift between 9 and 10. Those were good lines because he was 400s down going to that last curve.
Yeah. So that was always going to be part of the deal. Lochner wins from Walter and Friedrich as they were in the first heat. Cripps gets ahead of teammates Spring. Ķibermanis in 6th, ahead of 5th, tied with Spring and Benny Meyer. And then Alexander Kazyanov in 8th place, the winner of the last race. And that's how the remainder of the top 20 finished up. Team Austria, Benny Meyer and Markus Sammer, 10 down, 10 to go here in Innsbruck in Austria. Oskars Melbārdis, last year's silver medalist, the silver medalist in the World Cup race the year before that.
Both of these huge men who hold the start record on the track at 496. All they can manage is a 5:10, and there's 2 words to describe what's happened to them. It's called back surgery. both of them. 50.6, excellent. These are probably the two biggest pair in the field. These two are both about 240, if not more. But they used to dominate at the start, but those surgeries, you know, maybe they're just waiting to peak in February.
500s ahead of Benny Meyer from the first heat. They've now drawn back level, and Melbārdis starts to creep away.
Better speed in the entrance to Kreisel.
And this is a battle between the silver medalist and the bronze medalist last year, or in fact in February this year.
Best speed of anybody in the last 4 sleds.
And this is not for medals, this is to be 10th, 52.11.
Sezonas better, Sanders Persis, the long-time coach and driver from the Latvian program.
52.11 in the first heat would have seen him in 7th place, not in 10th place, but it's still not back in the medals where he's been in the last 2 World Cup races.
He just doesn't get out of the sled like he used to. Well, when you're 240, 45 pounds, look at the technique from Drieskins. I mean, his hands almost come down to the ice. Look at the way he brings them up. Perfect timing. Now he's got to take that gigantic frame and put it behind his driver, and you can't see him.
Cody Bascu leads as Oskars Ķibermanis comes to the line. 8th place after the first heat. A slender 0.04 of a second in front of Cody Bascu.
You know, this 5:08 start, pretty similar to what Bascu had, so they're probably going to do that again. 5:08, maybe even better.
8th place he was, a 10th of a second out of the medals.
5:03.
Wow, what a getaway.
You know, I've been saying he's been sleeping. He's been waiting to pace himself for the Olympic Games. This is a fantastic starting team. 50.8 is better than the American velocity.
5 races into the championship, into the World Cup. He needs to wake up a little bit if he wants to be in form in February.
Yeah, I think you got to turn the water. Oh, big mistake there. 90.7. That's not the speed or of Cody Bascu. Down to 9, 13 down to 9. Gonna be clean here, he is.
What's the speed like? Half a mile an hour, 0.6 of a mile an hour slower.
It's gonna come back to him. What did that 100? He's not gonna catch it. Bascu's gonna pass him.
He'll be in the red. Cody Bascu is gonna move up a spot, surely at the line. Ķibermanis is behind.
52.14. So that mistake above Kreisel, even though he had a better start, better velocity, the mistake above Kreisel cost him a lot of speed out of the curve 9. Bascu got him on the bottom. Look,
it is so tight.
So meticulous. Look at him. Beat yourself up.
0.07 of a second slower.
Up here, speeds are slow. No mistakes allowed. You got to be perfect. That's not perfect. Out of 5. Look at the coaches. Every picture tells a story.
Yeah. Synchronous head cocking. Francesco Friedrich wins it from Justin Cripps and Nick Polagnato. Clemens Brasher 4th, Hannes Lochner 5th, Nick Cunningham in 6th, ahead of Chris Spring, Cody Bascu, and the Oskars is Ķibermanis and Melbārdis. That's your top 10. Some big stories behind. Next up, Latvia's Oskars Ķibermanis. 400s in hand over Alexei Stulnev, 100th out of the top half dozen. Ķibermanis went off 8th. Best result on this track last, what was that, in 12th place, 8th place last year.
5th in Winterberg last week, and you like they're jogging. You know, this is a very formidable start team, and 5:03 in the first run, 5:05. So I still think both Latvian sleds are just sleeping. They want to not peak in December. They want to peak in February. And this guy medaled in both the 2 and the 4 in Pyeongchang last year.
Yeah, but that was with electrifying start times then as well.
And 4 years ago, he was walking the streets of Riga. They plucked him off the streets, put him in the front seat of a sled, this decathlete, and here he is. He could, I would say, he's one of my favorites to win a medal in Korea.
Good speed, 65.1 miles an hour, 77.2. Drops into the red behind Stulnev. Meyer's only 800s back, but he beats Meyer.
Well, that's a big deal for Stulnev and the Russians, according to the points, for getting top 3 sleds into the Olympic Games ahead of the U.S. The Russians are going to have all 3 3 of their 4 sleds will be in front of the U.S.
No Uģis Žaļims in the 4-man races for Latvia.
Look at him hold on.
Yeah. So it's going to be the 2 Oskars that go, Ķibermanis and Melbārdis.
Look at the heads. Look at the profile of the 3 guys behind him. That's really good aerodynamics. The brakeman looks up a little bit, though. Brakeman should be the lowest of the 4. That's where all the dirty air comes around and exits the sled. This little coffin. Pretty good, quiet exit down there. Maybe just steered too much.
Wow. Martin Haven, John Morgan watching the final 4-man race of the pre-Christmas run here in Innsbruck in Austria. Oskars Melbārdis next to go. Melbārdis, the winner of the race here last year. He was the 2015 European champion as well.
5:01, 4th best start in the first run. They should do that or better.
Melbārdis has not been beaten on this track in 4 seasons.
Won the World Championships here, the Latvians' first ever in 2015, and he won the silver medal at the Olympic Games in Sochi in 2014. The Latvians' first ever medal in bobsledding.
Last man to beat him on this track in 2012 was Max Arndt.
Well,
that feels like a long while ago saying those names.
He's losing some time back here too. The speed's not perfect. The lines are excellent. 1300s is a lot of time.
He was 200s out of 4th. And he was
105 flats, excellent dives out of 10. Let's watch the back end of the sled here. The heads, nice. Didn't carve too much ice. This will be the leader.
124.7 at the bottom is good enough. 51.36
better.
There's Stulnev on the left. Yeah, that was a 10th better than we saw from Kazyanov. 100th better than Stulnev.
Well, they're just buying their time, these 2 Latvian sleds. Melbārdis, the silver or maybe gold medalist.
Hasn't been beaten in 4 years, but that run comes to an end here.
These are 4 huge men sprinting across the ice at 25 miles an hour and get in, get down with cohesion. And does the push bar hit the side window? It does. That's a little bit of a mistake. It might have cost him 100th, but 100th here. Difference between podium and also ran.
With Johannes Lochner, Francesco Friedrich, Oskars Melbārdis takes the bronze medal ahead of Nico Walter and Alexei Stulnev. So rounding out the top 10, Kazyanov in 8th, Benny Meyer in 9th for Austria, and Rico Peter in 10th position ahead of Cody Bascu. Max Anjanov, Brad Hall, the top British sled, tied with Chris Spring for 13th ahead of Loic Kosterg. And then a tie for 16th, Polignato and Dean, ahead all the way down to 21st place, Ivo de Brun. As we head towards the top 10, 100 faster than Benny Meyer was Uģis Žaļims of Latvia with Jānis Janssens, his brakeman. And only he and Oskars Ķibermanis, last year's bronze medalist, made it through. Oskars Melbārdis with a thigh injury had to sit in the sled. May have to do the same tomorrow as well.
Oh, he picked the sled up.
Same as in the first heat.
Jānis, he's a little bit of inexperienced, tremendous athlete. Look at him hop in the sled and get his arms over the top and down. 5:30 start. That is a deficient start time.
5:24 in the first heat, so 600 slower than their own best start.
Lochner went 300s better, 5:20 to 5:17, and that's a hard hit there. So we're going to see that pictures again. I bet you'll see the brakeman pop right up out of the seat. 600s.
Now he's going to sink like a stone now, because
should have been down more than that.
Latvian sleds didn't have huge speed in the bottom corners.
114.2. So the only chance he's got is high 116 speed here in the exit.
He could be 3/10 behind by the line.
169. That's great speed. He could find that line down there. We've seen speed on the bottom part of this track, but good lines, that's pretty good. 124.1 is not the speed that he needs. He needed 125, which is 77.1 miles an hour. 8th best time of the run. The Germans live another day. Another sled.
And he drops behind Matthias Luthi and Benny Meyer, and he's tied with Chris Spring.
How about Luthi's run?
Well, Luthi is going to be top 12, no worse.
He finished 15th and 22nd so far in the first 2 races of the year at Innsbruck and Winterberg for him. So that's a great result for Poland. Look at the start here, and then this crush. Might be the hardest hit we've seen in the race yet.
Yep.
Let's watch the back end. How high? Look at that. That is airtime. I told you the brakeman to come up out of that seat. And this isn't a sport where the energy wants to go up. It wants to go out. And that definitely cost him a lot of time.
Could almost hear the brakeman's fillings being rattled loose there, couldn't you? Really, that was a big old hit. Latvia's Oskars Ķibermanis and Mattis Miknis, bronze medalists 12 months ago. They lie in 4th place after the first heat. Martin Haven and John Morgan with the action from Altenberga in Germany.
15 start, 13 start, 100th off the track record for these decathletes from Latvia, these young decathletes. And let's see how hard he hits out of the curve to set himself up, and pretty quiet. Now, with that start, he's only 400ths ahead. That's not good. If I'm the Canadians at the bottom, I'm liking that. He should have been farther out than that with that start advantage. And he's down to 2, 1:14.4. He gets out of here, 1:16. Now, Polonado didn't have good speed at the bottom. 1:16 and change, 1:16.2. 300, so he got one maybe too close to call.
One tiny skid that we won't even see with the naked eye.
Perfect line. He's got better speed.
1:24.
He's going to be the leader. Perfect lines in the bottom, better speed than Polonado, and he pulls away.
Bronze medalist
54.
last year. Can he take another one this year?
Pulled away by 600.
Yeah. Well, you know.
300s, he beat him 300s at the start, 6 at the bottom, total over 2 heats. So Polonado beat him driving down the track.
Yeah.
But this young Latvian, who medaled in both the 2 and the 4 last year in Pyeongchang, the only person to do that. He was on the streets of Latvia 4 years ago, and they pulled him off the streets and turned him into a bobsled driver, and watch out. Up top, 8-9. This sets you up for this straightaway. A little late out of 9, a drift. He doesn't try and steer away from the ball or the wall, and if he did hit, it was minute.
So Ķibermanis leads, but it is a big step up to the podium. So the Saxon drivers both on the podium, but it's Justin Cripps and Alex Kopacz for Canada as Cripps takes his first win of the season. He has yet to finish outside the top 4 in 6 starts, and he's only been twice off the podium. Well, there are the rest of the runners and riders. IBS 4-man bobsleigh World Cup. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us wherever you are. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me John Morgan on a misty day, John. Drama in the first heat.
Well, the fireman, this young decathlete from Riga, who's starting to come on, get himself ready for the Olympic Games, where he medaled in both the pre-Olympic tests last year, and Ķibermanis, he's not in a bad position. Bronze medal position on this German track.
So he's not watching us online this weekend. Well, he probably was. Next up is the Latvian Oskars Melbārdis. Melbārdis, silver medalist here 3 seasons ago behind Nico Valter. Had to sit in the sled in the 2-man start yesterday because of a thigh strain.
Yeah.
Dalman Striskins pushed the sled and the driver. But now it is a kind of 3.5-man push.
They went 27 in the first run. I bet you he got in early again.
Yeah.
So they got it really early again. He's got a bad back.
Don't forget how much he was hobbling
23,
around.
still 400's better.
Yeah, that thigh strain is really
49.7.
aggravated.
That's equal velocity to the Americans who just came out. And this is the world champion from 2015, the silver medalist from the Olympic Games in Sochi. So he knows the speed lines. He's medaled on the track before, but he's only got a 300th lead. He's got to pull it out to 5 or 6 here. There's the 5, 1:15.4, better speed than the US. He'll probably get 118 and change here the way this guy drives. No, not very good speed, down to 7. Only at 7, he should have been more.
He's only a whisker in front.
This is clean.
0.08 of a second.
5, it's better speed.
This will be the leader. Not going to move far up the order, but he will take the lead and seal himself into at least an 8th place finish.
Considering he's wounded, that's pretty good. He showed Once he got in the sled, and he usually has start times probably down in the teens, 14, 15, so he should be up challenging a medal.
Last year he was 11th with that back injury he was just starting to recover from. In fact, it was his first race back, I think. Watch how much he limps, though. He's got a bad thigh strain, and he is anything but healthy this weekend.
Okay, look at the heads, are perfectly aligned. Let's get out of here with the flag. And then he comes out, hangs it a little bit, but shoots out of there into 11-12 with a pretty good slingshot.
Okay, 3 to go here. Are we going to see a German winner? We've had 3 German winners in the last 3 years. We've had 10 in the last 10 races here. Oskars Ķibermanis, bronze medalist in the last 2 two-man races, lies 3rd after the first heat.
Fireman and decathlete from Riga, 23 years old. Another decathlete right behind him, Janins Janssens, 49.7.
They know every 100th counts. They went 300s quicker than their first start, but they're still in the red because Friedrich's team started 700s faster than they did.
Clean line so far, down to 100. That's a great sign. Remember, the Germans weren't smooth, didn't have a great velocity at the start.
This would be a massive scalp if Ķibermanis can stay on the podium.
He's a full kilometer down. He's going to need 118 speed to match here.
He's battling the 4-man world champion, but it was 118 kilometers an hour.
He's got to watch out to fall behind Cripps. He's going to get Cripps. He's going to win. At least a bronze medal.
Behind.
125.1, 5th best.
So he is going to be second at the line. And
bronze medal. It's okay. He'll take that.
Still 2 sleds to go, so he's not guaranteed a medal, but Friedrich is.
That's a medal. That's a medal. I'm telling you now.
Not guaranteed. I hear what you're saying about Maxim Andrinov.
Would you like some odds? Would you like me to bet you right now?
Hey, one thing you never take for granted on Altenberga is that everything finishes the way it starts.
These lines here were pretty good.
Yep.
But his speed into Kreisel wasn't. It was 9/10 down in a kilometer, half a mile an hour. Here, look at the heads, the aerodynamic profiles at the 80-mile-an-hour speeds. Every 100th is important.
Now he is going to overhaul his teammate to become Latvia #1 in the 4-man rankings, and that could be really critical.
Walked away with the goal.
And the Saxon crowd will be happy. 1-2 for Saxony. Oskars Ķibermanis, bronze again, as he was yesterday evening. Justin Cripps, the 2-man winner, takes 4th ahead of Hansi Lochner, and Alexander Kazyanov finally ends up as the top Russian as Maxim Andrinov slips from 2nd down to 8th position. Lamindine in the top 10, and Brad Hall up to 15th place from 19th at the end. And it's another pre-Olympic race win for Kevin Kuska, this time with Nico Walter. Of course, Andrei Laya went on to claim gold in a number of world championships with Kevin Kuska. Last year's 4-man worlds shared between the man in the blue beanie there with the broad smile, Francesco Friedrich, and Johannes Lochner. First time we've seen a joint 4-man gold medal. Alexander Kazyanov, our leader, and Alexander Kazyanov of Russia, our leader. Next up is Oskars Melbārdis, Tāmas Treskins. Melbārdis, a week ago in Altenberga, was sitting in the sled in the 2-man. He's got a big thigh injury, and he is still definitely not quick. Enough strength now to push, but not to push the way that they used to push.
These 2 big monsters used to have the best starts on every track. Now they're in the twilight of their career, the 2 of them. And Treskins, let's see him adjust, get down there low. He's the biggest man on the brakes in the competition. Can you see him back there?
Only just, but you saw the way he wriggled down slowly, tiny movements. Yeah.
And it's, you know, talk about air. Well, this is a super speedway. You know, last week we were on a track which we could equal to Darlington, a track too tough to tame. Here, this is like Talladega or Daytona. This is a super speedway. You need every 100th of a second, as we saw with the last 2 sleds down tied to the 100th.
Well, Melbārdis, the winner here in 2-man 3 years ago. Uģis Žaļims took silver, his teammate, tied with Beard Hefty.
You can see this being the leader, but this guy shouldn't be back here in this placing. He should be up challenging for the top 5.
Yeah. Former winner in 2 and 4 man. He ought to be up at the top, but he's just not strong enough at the moment.
144.1, 89.5. We'll see 90-mile-an-hour speeds before we're done here today. 105.90, so he's 1,300ths better. The tied for 100 team, and the Swiss and the Russians wave goodbye. And now we have a Latvian in the leader's box. 2 biggest men in the field. They're both average about 200. One's 240, others about 250. They don't run like they used to. And look at the runner tips here. Not comfortable. A little wave out of that wall. A lot of problems up there in that wall curve all day. That tap down there out of bridge is what we've seen. That's at 83 miles an hour or so.
You see how cold it is out, still steaming like racehorses, like the thoroughbreds that they are. 11th off the feet, first heat in the 2-man race here. Uģis Žaļims and Intars Dambis took a joint silver medal on this track 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was just come out of nowhere party.
Yep.
Couldn't believe it. 5'10", 5'11" in the first shot. Look at the size. Look at the brakeman here. Can you see the brakeman? Can you see the guy at all? No. That's that air goes over the top of the sled, over the driver's helmet, and ejects out the back of the sled. The dirty air. The less dirty air you got, more cleaner you move through the wind. Sound. So much quieter than the artificial tracks.
Still in the green over Rico Peter, 1200ths of a second, but the gap's coming down.
No speed. This is going to go red numbers here pretty quick.
Doesn't have the speed of the Swiss City sled.
Got a 4, maybe. Hanging in there.
Let's see what he's got at the bottom. Needs 144 to be guaranteed of the lead.
Doesn't have it. 143.7, 89.3.
Gonna be close.
Fall back 1, 7, 30. Fall backs 2. Falls backs behind the Austrians too. Rico, nice work.
Well, that's good news for Benny Meyer. As he moves up a spot, Žaļims drops 2. In fact, Žaļims in front of Melbārdis by 1400ths of a second. So the Latvians lying 3rd and 4th with 10 to go.
Gets on the right side. He should be on the left. Then he climbs in here. Probably has to climb in here late, and he's low. Look at the runner tips. See this? See the runner tips come down? He probably had to steer more than he wanted. Didn't have 106 speed. Ooh, he got on there a little too early too. Crossed over. Then it looks a little high there. This is down fast part of the track, bridge and tree.
For a tiny nation like Poland, that's a big deal. Oskars Ķibermanis of Latvia, and he lies in 8th place. Start record for he and Mattis Miknis at 5:04 in the first heat, and they might go quicker.
Yeah, all these decathletes did here is 5:04 the first run. In, down, quick. Beautiful, 5 flat. Look at the brakeman, already tucked in there perfectly. Look at the velocity, 57.8. No one's had that velocity, but that just erased a lot of it right there.
That's 3 or 400ths of a second of a quicker start gone in that little skid.
Last year, the Latvians went 1-2 on this track in 4-man, which we'll see tomorrow. And this Ķibermanis, the only athlete who won medals in both the 2 and the 4-man disciplines on the Pyeongchang Olympic track last year in the pre-Olympic competition. 4 years ago, walking the streets of Latvia, they got him right into a front seat of a bobsled. 105.9 is not very good speed. And he has proven to be a very valuable entity in the Latvian program.
He is still 0.3 of a second ahead of Rico Peter. He was 900ths ahead of him in the first heat.
He's not worried about Rico. He's worried about moving up. Speed 89.3. Not as good as the Swiss. Still good enough to be the leader, though.
Takes the lead by 1/4 of a second. 105.60. That's 2700ths faster than his first run. Well, that's a big step forward. Don't forget, from him in 8th place up to 5th place was just 0.05 of a second.
And when you have that start advantage, it puts the pressure on everybody else to be, you know, perfect down below. This wasn't, he steered around there much like Kasanoff did. That was costly. That's worth 1,500ths at least. Here, I always like to look at the runner tips. Can you see the runner tips right there? really a lot of turning there. Speed wasn't that great. That 105.9 should have been better with that start. But he's the leader, nonetheless.
Turning into a corner at 90 miles an hour in a car. Nico Valter wins by 5 from Francesco Friedrich, 21 ahead of Hansi Lochner. And then Krips Stolnev, Ķibermanis rounding out the top half dozen. Chris Spring in 7th ahead of Nick Polonyato, tied with Rico Peter. And then Benny Meyer rounding out the top 10. Fighting hard for everything. So too are the Latvians. Latvia won 2 in the 4-man race in Sanktmorica last year. Oskars Melbārdis hasn't been out of the medals since the 2013 Worlds, but today he will be. Of that there can be no doubt. 12th after the first heat, 6/10 out of the medals, and his advantage over Justin Olsen, the leader, just 0.07 of a second in this hugely tight field.
5:07 first run, very efficient start team. Look at them late. Look how low these guys are. And these is the 4 biggest athletes in the field. How's the shoulders look back there?
Yeah.
You see anybody back there? I give him an A+ on the aerodynamic profile.
Velocity second only to Justin Olsen in the US sled, so he's got a slender advantage, but now he's in the red. And that's because of Olsen's team getting a 4.99 start.
91.4 is great speed.
Yes, it is.
And this is the world champion from 2015, the Olympic silver medalist from 2014 in Sochi. Ooh, he's up near the lip. He might have hit it. 800s down, 107.8.
Same
Better
speed
speed
as Olsen. That's quicker than he was in the first heat, though.
Ooh, pressure, losing back, 600s. Now we're going to have something right to the 100th of a second.
Olsen was only 146.4 at the bottom there, 147.6. It's going to be very close.
Could be a tie, maybe our first tie of the day.
Is he going to take the lead from Olsen?
No,
he does.
It's okay, the Americans had a good run, and this losing to Melbārdis, who's wounded. He's not the same athlete. Back surgery in 16. The 4 biggest guys in the sled are in this right here, this Latvian combo. And look how tenderly Melbārdis will get out of the sled.
Yep.
That back surgery, he's still 80% at 245 pounds. And watch the line. Does he hit the lip?
Yep,
Put
right up against the
there.
woodwork. No. Takes ice off the top there, look.
Well, bounce off and slingshot yourself down to the bottom of the 2nd fastest track on the planet. Look at Sanders Prus, his coach. Sanders sort of wears the run on his face.
Yeah. 8 sleds to go. Latvia lead. Latvia will lead at the end of this run. Here's last year's winner in 4-man on this track, Oskars Ķibermanis. From 4700s behind. He's not going to win it this year.
Best starts in the competition yesterday. And this is the only driver who won medals at both the 2- and the 4-man pre-Olympic tests in Pyeongchang last year. I think he's got a good chance of doing both again. This result here would be pretty important. 5:02. They've approved at the start. 58 flat is excellent. How's the aerodynamics right here? A+. Perfect.
Yeah. That's the best velocity we've seen from any sled so far in this second heat out of that first corner.
Skid. A lot of skids out of that wall. Tricky Snake 1 and 2, and it's Sunny. These historical names on the track. Here comes Nash and Dixon, named after the '64 Olympic Games gold medalists for Great Britain, who are members of the St. Moritz Bobsled Club. Telephone.
107.4 last trip, 108.1. He was only 7th on the ice in the first heat, 8th on the ice, so he's got better, faster ice.
A couple taps though, 108.1, 2300s. He's going to be the leader, but he wants to move up.
Speed at the bottom, 147.5 in the first heat.
This is last year's winner. 147.9.
He's going to hold the lead.
91.9 miles an hour in a sled with no shock system. That's fast.
Yep.
They go a little quicker in Whistler, not much. But Whistler's the artificially cooled track.
Shakes his head, a couple of mistakes crept in there, could have been better. He takes a near 3/10 of a lead advantage over teammate Oskars Melbārdis.
One of my favorites at the Olympics. He could do medal in both. Watch up top here. This didn't help. That little tap there. That's up on the entrance to Nash Dixon here. You can just tell it's late. Anytime you see the split in that cowling, the articulation becomes a little maxed, and
So I think
that's a rough transition.
First time we've seen the exit of Devil's Dyke, so that's the first man to make that error. I wouldn't bet against win number 5, but Friedrich will be trying to deny him. Chris Spring takes the bronze. Benny Meyer a 10th behind in 4th, ahead of Oskars Ķibermanis and Cody Basque in 6th place. Great result for him, for Lloyd Kosteg, for Rudy Rinaldi, and Brad Hall, top 10.
Great stuff today.
Seven sleds to go. Uģis Žaļims of Latvia.
First of 3 Latvian sleds.
Yeah. 3800s off the lead, a 10th of a second in hand after the first heat over Marcus Treichel, who's just gone down, and over current leader Benny Meyer. He has 1600s of a second, 1700s. There's Benny on the right, Marcus Sammer on the left.
So it's so close. Meyer could get him too. Žaļims hasn't had a top 10 finish all season.
Yeah, one tiny error on the bend away, and he will drop down the order as well. 493 is another good start.
6 flat is pretty good velocity. That's how the brakeman gets in the sled and gets around, and the driver gets around the first curve. 4 S's, and now what? Ooh, clean. He should hit 3 times. 1, 2, 3. That's the norm.
Yeah.
That's the first guy.
That's the ideal line, 1:12.8. So he's got good speed going into the
Kreisel. He's got red numbers here.
Yeah, doesn't have the speed of Benny Meyer. Oh, my goodness.
A lot of energy left to right there.
Blam, 189, and
now he's going to fall. 111.2, so how many spots? He's going to fall at least 1.
And he does slip behind Benny Meyer and Marcus Sammer. Meyer continues his climb up the order. The top 6 beckons. He only needs to pick 1 more off, and it's a top 6 result for the Austrian.
So the question is everybody doing bad in the second run, or did Meyer do so well on the second run and faltered in the first run?
Yeah, he faltered in the first run. Benny Meyer's best result of the season so far, 7th, and he will at least tie that.
Still good result for Žaļims, top 10. That's his best finish of the year. We love talking about personal best. This might not be the personal best for the sled, with 74 miles an hour with the back runners airborne. And
look at the brakeman.
Yeah, look how close people get to the track. Yeah. I mean, that's what the viewing here is. Look at Sanders Bruce. Sanders, you're going to have 3 sleds in the top 10.
Hey. Uģis Žaļims, all right, not crestfallen with that. His 2 teammates come up next. Can Benny Meyer pick off 1 or both Latvians? Could be both. They were tied in the first heat. A tie for 5th place. First to go, Oskars Ķibermanis and Mattis Miknis.
85 in the first run. Could be 83, 84. These unbelievable athletes that these 2 are. 84. So this young Latvian 4 years ago was just started driving. They got him off the streets of Riga. Decathlete, put him in the front seat. We didn't know about him the first couple of years, but last year at this time, the light bulb went off, and he went on to finish 2 medals at the pre-Olympic test in Pyeongchang, Korea, the only athlete to do that. So you got to put him down as one of the favorites coming into Korea, and the Latvians, Martin, have been sort of sleeping this whole World Cup here, hoping to peak in February.
Gaps coming down, was 2900s, now 21. He needs 119s here, 181. Benny Meyer was 121.
Oh, he's got plenty of time, though. Plenty of time.
It's going to be close, but he will have the lead over
Ducks
Meyer.
his head.
1600s.
49.88.
700 so slower than Benny Meyer, so he survives on his first heat.
First, only 100th better. That tells us now the track has been chewed up a little bit. We won't see the early sleds all go 2500s better. They have a cleaner track to work with. This is what evens up the draw.
Fastest so far in this second heat. Oskars Ķibermanis second quickest.
What's the brakeman? What's the technique? In, watch the arms, in, down. Watch him bury himself back there for aerodynamics. And he's not even the top. He's not even the normal brakeman that Ķibermanis uses. Here's the lines in the turbodrome. Consistent. You see the heads getting shook around in there. That's because there's about 4 G's of force.
Oskars Ķibermanis leads, 5 to go to round out the 2-man World Cup season. The battle is on for the Crystal Globe. Justin Cripps looks set to win it from Francesco Frigic, but for third, it's Chris Spring versus Oskars Ķibermanis, Rico Peter and Nico Walter. Oskars Melbārdis, 1 bronze medal this season, has not yet claimed victory in the 2-man, and he's out of the running for the top 3 spot.
11th best start in the first run. And these two monsters are the 2 biggest athletes in the field. Watch the way these 2 245-pound guys get themselves into that little bathtub, we call it. And he's got a 493. He's got the 11th best start in the first run. Usually he has the top 3 start. Both of them dealing with back surgeries in the last couple of years. I asked him, are you 100%? No, we're about 85%. How about at the Olympics? We'll be 100, they said. So, again, the Latvian strategy, I think, is just to wait until the Olympic Games to peak.
Yeah.
Speed,
no point wearing yourself out. 1:13.6 Benny Meyer, 1:13.4. So that is the top speed we've seen into the Kreisel.
Boy, but he can get this back with this. Going to need 120.
120.
There it is, 122.
122 is sensational.
That's sensational
now.
speed.
This could be a shot for the medals.
Wow.
1:12.9 at the bottom.
He's got talent, and you know, with the start time, 49.81. He goes 800s better. He's got the 13th best start. And
that would have left him 3rd in the first heat.
Watch out if he gets his mojo at the start in Korea. He's silver medalist in the 4-man in Sochi. Of course, that could be a gold too, but watch out. He's coming off that back surgery. He hasn't been the same in 2 years. Look at the size of the guy in the back.
Yeah.
6'4", 245 pounds. And look at the hits. 4 hits here. Wasn't perfect, but average speed at the start, and then the best speeds on the bottom. Look at this down in the finish, right here at the finish curve. And this is where you can throw away a lot of time in this uphill section. And different pieces of equipment.
So he takes victory from Hansi Lochner and Justin Cripps. Nico Walter slips out to 4th place ahead of Melbārdis and Ķibermanis, and that may not be enough to head off Ķibermanis in the battle for 3rd place in the Crystal Globe. Cripps will win it. Francesco Frigic will take 2nd place in the overall season rankings, and I think Ķibermanis probably shades Chris Spring for 3rd. 6 to go, and as yesterday, 2 Latvians come out first in the top 6. Yesterday, they were tied for 5th position to the 100th in the 2-man race. Today, they're 500s apart. Oskars Ķibermanis doing the chasing. 400s faster than Justin Cripps in the first run. So far, Cripps and Spring are the fastest 2 sleds in the field in this 2nd heat.
486 in the first run at the start. They should do 84 probably. Look at how he's locked in. He doesn't go off the back block. Ķibermanis, he goes up the front, locks his feet down on the ice. And this young decathlete 4 years ago wasn't driving. Problems.
Man at
44, there's the 484. They're in. See, now they're still settling in, but this isn't good. 56.6.
Elvis Lucis at 3, got his left foot caught on the cowl, on the push bar, couldn't get it in.
So now no mistakes allowed, and there was no mistakes on that exit of those 4 S's. A lot of ways to describe how do you come out of those S's.
Good speed, that's the fastest so far. Quicker even than Chris Spring at 71.9 miles an hour.
This is the only athlete that medaled in both events last year in Pyeongchang, Korea. He surprised everybody, including himself.
Top speed, 77 miles an hour.
Yeah, this is quite
better
a run.
than Spring at the bottom,
48.82.
Fastest run we've seen in the competition so far.
It's getting colder, it's getting faster. So these Latvians, who I've been saying, I said again to their coach last night, Sanders Prusis, the Latvians are sleeping. They got 3 weeks off now to the Olympics and training. I'm telling you, I expect a lot out of this kid right here in Korea, no doubt.
Best result of the season, bronze medal in Altenberga, a couple of weeks out.
Okay, the start, well, the choreography on ice, but sometimes it doesn't go. Watch the guy on the left. Look at the sled, was a little weird. Sled was like out of the blocks there, out of the drive lines, and now the number 3 guy can't get in. Number 2 tries to drop in, so they're still moving around out of the drive lines. That's not what you want to do. They're still the leaders, though.
5 to go, and Oskars Ķibermanis heads the field. Final four-man race before the Winter Olympic Games. Kēnigszē, Bavaria, 5 sleds to go. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching the action. And this is Oskars Melbārdis.
Okay, another beast, silver medalist at the Winter Olympic Games in Sochi. Maybe he's a gold medalist.
Bronze medal on this track in the post-Sochi race.
43, great. I mean, he's only operated at 80% back operation after he won the World Championships in 2015 in Innsbruck, or Īglsa. But he had the surgery in that summer. His teammate, longtime brakeman Domas Drieskins, also has had a surgery, and they're both about 85%. And they're doing pretty good right now.
Best speed we've seen, faster even than teammate Oskars Ķibermanis. This is a battle between the two Latvians for supremacy.
Not too far out of the medals here.
125, 124.4, still quicker than anybody else has produced. 77.3 miles an hour, 72.5, little slower than Ķibermanis, but enough at the line.
Yeah, he goes a little bit better, 1100s better in the heat.
Yep.
So Melbārdis, silver medalist 4 years ago, world champion 3 years ago, surgery 2 years ago. He might be starting to put it all together. And look at the size of this guy. He's the biggest driver in the field, about 6'3", 245. Look at this.
Lots of Latvian fans. They were having glue wine with a shot earlier, only they didn't bother with the glue wine.
Look at that.
So there's our result. Look at that. A big win. Big win. I mean,
all we
huge.
can talk about it was a German sweep.
36 from first to second, and then 3600s takes you down to Justin Cripps in 7th. So Nico Walter beats Benny Meyer and Oskars Melbārdis, who tie for the silver medals. What a race to end the season. What a warmer-up for the Olympic Games in Korea. Says, hangs up his spikes and his helmet, and a tie for silver between the Latvians and the Austrians. It's been a big weekend for Austrian bobsledding one way or another. And there's Heike Grossvang, the Secretary General of the IBSF, handing out the flowers. So Benny Meyer, it's going to be a big summer for him, or big spring for him. He and Elizabeth Arce will get married in Hawaii in March. So they go from Pyeongchang to Hawaii. And there is Oskars Melbārdis and the rest of the Latvian team accepting their silver medal flowers.
It's been, Martin, a spectacular season.
The final race of the BMW IBSF World Cup season is done. The four-man competition concludes with Johannes Lochner as the World Cup champion ahead of Francesco Friedrich and Nico Walter, whose win today
by
puts
1 point ahead of Cripps.
Point ahead of Justin Cripps, the
lost
two-man
by
champion.
100th. 1 point.
Justin Cripps, the two-man World Cup champion. Hansi Lochner, the four-man World Cup champion. And how tight it is all the way down the field after a fantastic season of racing. Wow, absolutely.
Justin Cripps, 1 point. That's him finishing up one more.
Yeah.
Where did he finish? Cripps finished by
first
500.
and fourth, yeah. So, well, one place further up ahead of Friedrich.
Yeah.
But then it is what it is, and the Canadians, like the Germans, in very strong form heading into these